Okay, in our last video we talked about what the names of the columns and the rows were in the periodic table and why we call them that. We know now that the columns are called families and the rows are called periods. Well, now we're going to look at what the family names are, and we've given these families or these groups of families these names, so that way when we refer to them in conversation, people can have an idea of the properties that we're discussing, whether it's physical or chemical. So for example, this first family right here, the very first one, this family is called the alkali metals. Now when I walk up to someone and I say, this is an alkali metal, a couple of things should come to mind. Well, they should know that it's a metal, and there are a lot of physical properties that come along with being a metal, like being shiny. In this case, these are soft metals, so they're very easy to tear. Some chemical properties should also pop up with this specific family. One of the chemical properties that we see is it's very violently reactive in water. And that's all of the elements in this family have those share very similar properties to that. They're not all exactly the same, but they are very similar. So these are the alkali metals. Next, we move on to family 2, right here. And these are the alkaline earth metals. Now, again, they share very similar properties. They're metals. They're still soft, but not quite as soft as the alkali metals. And they still react pretty violently, but not nearly as violently as the alkali metals. So they're a little step down from the alkali metals. And so when you say that to someone, this is an alkaline earth metal, these are the ideas that should come into their mind. Now this next family we group all together, we group these next few families together because we found that all of these guys act very similarly. And this group is called the transition metal family. So these are known as the transition metals. And the reason that we call them that is because they kind of break the rest of the rules that we're going to learn about later in this class. They have their own sort of set of rules for how they act and behave. And so these are the transition metals. They just act kind of strangely. Next, you're going to see this stair-step method kind of thing that this is already done for us. It expands across a few families, but we group all of these together in one, and we call them the metalloids. And the reason we call them the metalloids is because they have properties of both metals and nonmetals. All of them do. So this particular stair-step family group are known as the metalloids. Now this upside down little pyramid thing here that spans across families 14, 15, and 16, they don't really have a very specific name. Some call them the CNO group for the carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen you see at the top. We're just going to call them the non-metal family. Now, these are not the only non-metals that exist on the periodic table. The next two families that we're going to talk about are also non-metals. But these guys, they don't really have any other special property about them other than the way that they act because they are non-metals. Not one that they all share together. So we're going to call them the non-metals, and that is it's this little group right here that spans across. Now this next family is just 17. This is a very important family. These are also non-metals, but they have a very special name of halogens. We call them the halogens. And the reason that they get a special name is because they are the most reactive non-metals that we have. The alkali metals are the most reactive metals, and the halogens are the most reactive non-metals, so they get a very special name as well. And then finally, this final column here, this final family, it's also very special. We call them the noble gases. And we call them that because they are non-reactive. They do not react with anything. And so they're noble. They're nobility. They need nothing. They need no one. All right? So they are the noble gases. We do have these two families down here at the bottom, the lanthanides and the actinides. We will discuss them, or we did discuss them in the nuclear unit, but that will be about the most that we talk about them in this class. Most of them are radioactive, and that is where a lot of their uses are going to come from. But the lanthanides and the actinides are down there as well. All right.